Hello viewers, welcome to this tutorial. So we're learning about lists today, and list is simply an advance of what a variable can do. Okay, so we're going to use list to receive user details. We're going to use list to manipulate and navigate so much things. So let's just start with it. So this is how to declare a list, but basically a list is made to store several details, unlike a variable where you store just a single detail, like maybe name, and you just write the name of a person. But a list can store several things about an individual, so you can have user details. So this is how to call a variable as well, or sorry, a list as well. Give a name to your list, bring the equal sign, and unlike the variable where you just go straight to type the name, with this you bring a square bracket, okay, to type whatever you want to add. So we want to add several values. The first value is a string, so we bring the quotation marks. We bring a comma, so the comma is what separates the indexes. So if you see the comma, meaning the first thing we have written is a different index. List understands or goes through its value with what is called indexing. So the second one is maybe true, a bool value. The third one is an integer. The fourth one is a float number. Okay, so this is how a list works. It separates its values with a comma, and each one of them is on a different index. Okay, so let's print our list. User details, we print, and it shows us everything we have within the list. So if you want to access the individual details or the individual values within our list, then we use what is called the indexing. Okay, so that's how to index. After writing the name of your list, you have to open and close a square bracket. So within the square bracket is where you specify which particular value you want to call. Okay, so we want to start with the first value, the second to the last. So every first value in the list has the index 0. Every first value in the list. So if you run the code, we see prints, okay, and it continues as such. The second one is 1, and the third one is 2, and it continues that way. Okay, so every list has the beginning index as index 0. So what if we want to call the list from behind? Then it starts with index -1. Okay, so if you want to start from the front, then we use positive values including 0. So 0 is the first one, 1 is the second one, 2 is the third one, it continues as such. If you want to start from behind, then we use negative values. So -1 is the last one, -2 is this one, -3, and it continues that way. So if you run the code, we have the last one. If you bring -2, we have this one. So if you bring -3, this will be -3. -4 will be print. So let's see. -4 print. So this is how to work with list and to use indexing to call lists. So a list is what is called an iterable. Okay, this is it. Iterable. It's an iterable because of its index. You can call them by its index, and you can call them one after the time. So that is what is called. Anytime you see an iterable, a list is an example of an iterable. Okay, so let's jump into it. So how can we add to a list? How can we take out from a list? How can we delete something from the list? So that's what we're going to do. So let's declare a new list called names, and inside the names we have Prince, we have Mensa, we have Ashrifi, we have Patience, we have Gladys, we have Na. Okay, we have so many names like John. So okay, so these are cool. So these are the values we have inside our list, and each one of these has an index. Okay, if we're starting from the front, index 0. If we're starting from the back, is index -1. So if you print our list, we have names, and this is our list. Okay, now if we want to omit this square bracket, you realize we have square brackets here. We want to print it without a square bracket, then we use a string method. Okay, a string method called join. So let's go. We first bring the quotation mark, which signifies which signifies a string, and we bring the dot operator and we type join. So after bringing the join, we just type names. Okay, we bring in the name of the list. So this function right here, this string method, will be able to omit this ones, the square bracket. Okay, so here see we have all this combined. So if you want to bring a separator in between them, then we use the comma and a space. Okay, so this list or any kind of string value we put here will be the separator for the values in this. Alright, so using the join method of the string is able to take out any other thing and leave only the string values within. So you can't use this method with a value. You can't just imagine we have enough. So let me print this and see. So everything is separated with a comma and a space, as we have identified in between this. If we want to add a value to it, it will be add a value in terms of a number. It will be impossible because this join is only used for string values. Okay, so see, it's an error. So it expected some str, it found an integer. So you can only use the join method for strings inside a list. Alright, so let's continue with it. How can we add to a list? How can we subtract from a list? There are two ways we can deal with list. Either we call a list by the value, or we call the list by the indexing. So let's try to add to a list. So names.append. This is how to add to a list. Bring the name of the list, then dot append. So inside the brackets of the append, you put in any value you want to add. Okay, so be it glory. So we want to add glory. Then after, we print the list names. So this is it, we have glory. Anything you add is joined to the latter part of the list. So anything you append to the list is joined to the latter part. So we have glory. So what if we want to take something out of the list? There are two ways of doing that. Is either we do that by names, or we do that by indexing. So if we say names dot remove, so if we use remove, then we are doing it by name. So you are sure of the name of whatsoever is inside the list. Okay, so names dot remove, and you bring, maybe we are taking out Gladys. So you have to identify it as a string. Okay, that's why I have the quotation marks here, and I run the code. So during running the code, the first one is append glory, there is glory, and the second one is remove Gladys, so there is no Gladys. Okay, so we've learned how to remove. Now what if we want to remove by indexing? So you are not really sure of which name it is, but I want to remove by indexing. You might need it one day, especially the first and the last indexing, since they are simple. This is 0 and this is -1. Okay, so let's try to remove by index. For that, we cannot use the remove function. Okay, we have to use a function called delete. Okay, so delete, and we bring the name of the list, then we bring the square bracket and put in the indexing of the value. So maybe we want to remove Mensa, and Mensa is index 1. Okay, so Mensa is either index 1 or 0, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and -6. So but it's good to use 1. So 1 is kind of appropriate. So we're deleting 1. So what we're doing in this code is we are adding glory, we are removing Gladys, and we are removing any value at index 1, which is Mensa. Okay, so prints everything, glory is added, there is no Gladys, and there is no Mensa. So there is nothing at all we have in the code. So this is basically how to add to a list, how to remove from a list, deleting from a list, printing a list, and making sure you are joining within the string values and every other thing. So there'll be more tutorials on how to slice through a list and how to receive a user value into a list. So we appreciate what a list really does, because instead of using a variable, but a variable is so good, but in some cases we might need to input it inside the list because they could be sequential values. Okay, values that are interrelated, so we don't want to be separating them in different variables. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to receive updates on new tutorials. Thanks for viewing.